you draft a living trust, and you say, okay, if something happens to me, I want my son, my daughter, my best friend to take care of everything, and this is what I want them to do. Your daughter can take this document and can go to the bank, can go to the real estate office, can go to the stockbrokers and say, this is my parents' living trust, here's their names, here's their death certificate, here's my name, here's my driver's license. They'll look at all this stuff and they'll say, okay, what is it you'd like to do? Why is that? That's because this document has legal muscle. Why is that? Well, to understand that, we have to go back through the history of the world. Ever since the beginning of time, sorry ladies, but we're catching up, but we aren't there yet, and I know that you know this is true, it's been a man's world. Okay? The guy goes out, kills a deer, drags it home, and the family eats. The guy goes out and does a good business deal, brings home the gold, the family has money. To the degree that the old man is successful, the family's prosperous. If he fails, the family is destitute. It's all up to the old man, and everybody knows this. Okay, the wife knows it, the kids know it, the dog knows it. Everybody takes care of the old man. Now, when the old man dies, everything he has is going to go to his oldest son. And people say, well, that's not fair. Well, you got to understand the way it was back then. Right now, if something happens to you, you can just pick up the phone, call 911. Somebody comes over and rescues you. Back then, you were out in the middle of nowhere. There wasn't anybody around. You had to take care of yourself. And if the old man took his estate and divided it between, we'll say, his 5 boys, the other neighbors are going to say, hey, did you hear about Smith down the road? He divided his estate among his 5 boys. None of them have enough money to protect themselves. Let's go get them. And they just knock them off one at a time, wipe out the family, steal all the gold. The family doesn't exist anymore. In order to protect themselves, they had to keep the money and the power concentrated. That's why it went to one person, and it was always the oldest son. Now, the old man knew this was going to happen. Everybody knew this was going to happen. So with his daughters, he knew they were going to get nothing. So what he would do is he would look around for a family that had a boy that could marry his daughter and provide her food, shelter, and protection. And he would talk to the parents and say, hey, have your son marry my daughter, not the other girl down the lane. And he would bribe that family. What's that bribe called? Dowry. Exactly, a dowry. You got it. Now, with his boys, he knew the number one son set for life. But number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, however many kids he had, boys he had, they were going to be on their own. They had to find their own trade. So what he would do is he would look around for somebody that would take them on as an apprentice. You might start clerking in the law office, might go into the priesthood, might go into the military, might become a blacksmith apprentice, might go to sea as a cabin boy. But if the kid wanted to become a farmer, he'd look around and say, geez, there's nothing here for me. All the land belongs to the number one sons. I guess I'm going to have to go someplace else. That's why they went all over the world. That's why they went to Africa. That's why they went to Australia. That's why they went to North and South America, Philippines, all over the world, looking for land that they could get from the natives. Well, here, a bunch of people were here and started colonizing, and the King of England was just scalping us, taxing the heck out of us. And the people here tried to negotiate, and that didn't fail, and finally we went to war. And we won. And then through a series of wars and battles and treaties, we won our independence. And all of a sudden the founders were faced with saying, what do we do now? We don't have anybody to tell us what to do. I guess we're going to have to make some decisions on our own. And so they made all kinds of decisions. They decided to drive on the right side of the road instead of the left side of the road. Decided to use acres and feet instead of hectares and rods, and that way and we decided to use dollars and cents instead of pounds and sixpence, and just all kinds of decisions. One of the very interesting ones is we decided that we were going to speak English. And we are speaking English by one vote. Now, for those of you that are watching us on the DVD, this is a very interesting bonus that's going to be on the tail end of it. You'll like that bonus. It's very short, but it's very, very interesting. So one of the decisions they needed to make was what kind of a government we were going to have. We'd always been ruled by somebody. And the founders said, well, gee, there's this philosopher. I always thought he was French, but somebody says, no, he's English. So there was this philosopher that had this idea. He said, well, look, the Greeks proved that we don't need anybody over us. We can decide for ourselves. They used to get together as a community and vote, with white marbles and black marbles. They would vote. They ruled themselves. They didn't need anybody telling them what to do. They said, why couldn't you do that for a whole country? So one of the problems is logistics. It takes a long time to get from one place to another. And again, this little story is going to be in the bonus section. You will really enjoy this little story. So one of the things the founders understood is human nature. And they know that we have a great propensity to go back to doing it the same way we've always done it, even if we know it doesn't work. That's human nature. So they thought, geez, people have been told for thousands of years what to do by the rulers. What can we do about this? What can we do? And then somebody said, I know what let's do. Let's make everybody a sovereign. We'll all be kings and queens. Nobody will tell us what to do because we're kings and queens. And so that's what they did. They made us all sovereigns. We've grown up with this. It's been this way our whole life. It's not that way in other parts of the world. When I was in college, I had a buddy of mine that was living with a gal from Brazil. She had buco bucks. And she one day was complaining to me how these lumber thieves were stealing her mahogany off the property she owned in the upper Amazon basin. And I innocently said, well, why don't you just go catch them? She said, are you kidding me? She says, for me to go see my own property, I have to fly into Rio de Janeiro, and I have to go to the State Department, to the State House, and apply for permission to go to the next state. That takes 2 or 3 days. Then I go to the next state and I do the same and apply to go to the next state. She says, and the lumber thieves have spies in all these state houses, and they alert them that I'm coming. They hide their stuff. Then I go away, and then they come back and go to stealing my lumber again. She says, it takes me 2 or 3 weeks to get up there. And they've had plenty of time to hide their stuff. And I had a client of mine who said, yeah, I was telling this story, and he said, yeah, I was an engineer in Atlanta. And one day, this guy that was working with us from India came up to me, and he said, my wife and I want to go see this town named New Orleans. And where do we go to get permission to go? The guy couldn't believe that you could just go. He says, really? He says, yeah, if you got gas, your car works, go. He couldn't believe it. So in this country, we have phenomenal freedom. When people talk about coming to the land of opportunity, sure, they're talking about a lot of things happening here, but they're also talking about the opportunity to not have the government with their thumb on us. Okay, it's a big deal. And people from other countries appreciate it much more than we realize the advantage that we have. So as sovereigns, we have not only the right to do anything that we want. How many times, one more added to that, how many times have you heard of a business starting? And they get started in some garage, right? And they're up and running, they're going along, and money coming in the door, and at some point somebody says, gee, do you think we ought to tell them down at City Hall what we're doing? It's like an afterthought. In other countries, you can't do anything until after you get permission. Okay? That's the land we live in. Now, as sovereigns, we can do anything we want, unless there's a law against it that our representatives have passed. And if we don't like it, we can vote them out and put somebody in there that'll make it the way we want it to, because they're working for us. We're the sovereign. We're in charge. I know they don't always think so, but we know that we're in charge. So we can do anything. We can do anything we want. Not only that, but we can authorize, and we do this all the time, by the way, we can authorize people to do things for us. For instance, if I said, Malcolm, I need to get my car fixed next Tuesday, and I told him I'd bring it in. I totally forgot about, I have something else I need to do. Can I give you the keys to my car so you can take the car in? And you say, sure, I'll do that. So next Tuesday, he's driving my car, and some cop pulls him over and says, you know, what are you doing driving this car? It's not yours. And you say, well, the owner gave me permission. We don't think of it in these terms, but actually he had the legal right to be driving my car because I gave him that legal right. And we do this kind of thing all the time. We have people come in and water our plants while we're on vacation. You know, we go in and pick up somebody's dry cleaning for them. We have the legal right to be doing that. We were given that right by a sovereign, or we gave that right because we're a sovereign. Now, let's say that you owned 40 apartment houses, and you decide you were going to go to Europe for 2, 3, 4 months. Didn't know when you'd be back. Well, you can't leave that many units by themselves and not have somebody in charge. You can give somebody a power of attorney to take care of your apartments while you're gone. Now, let's say that you are in Europe and there's a terrible automobile accident, and you end up being in the hospital in a coma. Most people don't realize this, but the instant you go into a coma, that power of attorney stops. It's on hold. When you wake up, it's back in force. But when you're unconscious, it has no more authority. Now, there's a thing called a durable power of attorney, and what that means is that even if you're unconscious, that authority continues. So in other words, you as sovereigns can do anything you want for any reason at any time, unless there's a rule against it. Not only that, but you can authorize somebody else to do something for you consciously, whether you're conscious or unconscious. In fact, you could be dead in the ground for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. 20 years you're in the ground, and they're still using your authority to carry out certain actions. That's the power of a king, and that's why this works.